A full-speed spring game and a top 25 class on the way makes a statement, but not as much as the offensive line, seemingly going from not needing very many to suddenly aggressively going after several, indicating that there's still some change coming.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Howdy, y'all, and hello, all. Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stovall. I want to thank you kindly for stopping by to make this your first listen. We're available on all of your podcasting platforms, visually as well on YouTube. Find me personally on X at All State. Today, we're partially brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment matter more, especially right now when new customers can get $250 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet is a winner. Head on over to FanDuel.com to get started today. Meanwhile, we get to start in the conversation of the offensive line. It was a couple months ago, RA had put something out in regards to not really having very many targets on the offensive line that we were pursuing. And then obviously it popped up that Evan Goodwin, 4-star offensive lineman, put Oklahoma State in his Final Four. Hopefully he decides to become a Cowboy. Then we go out and we grab one of the top 10 available spring portal transfers in 6'4", 300-pound Markel Samuel as the offensive tackle. And now we're going after the Indiana offensive tackle that was lined up to start at guard this year at Indiana. Redshirted 2023, played in some games this previous season. 6'6" individual that packs on 320 pounds is obviously somebody that we could find a very useful need for. But this also hammers home the point that there is a new precedent set in Stillwater, Oklahoma. I feel like this does even validate more so that this NFL observation makes some sense, that there can be no complacency, there can be no laziness, there can be no room for favoritism. It doesn't matter what year you are, how long you've been here, the best players are going to play. And since we know that there's going to be a roster limitation, one of the biggest groups we had was offensive line coming into the spring, 22 dudes. But obviously, we've indicated something in spring that leads us to believe we need some more help with offensive line. And one of those things, when we were talking yesterday with Brian Smith, recruiting analyst, about Samuel coming from Appalachian State to Oklahoma State, is his last game, the PFF grade was a 78.6 when it came to pass pro. And his run blocking was like a 72 point something. There's been a gradual increase from the guy that went from a linebacker to a defensive end to an offensive tackle. And now we're going after more aggressively. That means there's going to be more guys to go. But it also maybe tells us that the recruiting that we did under Charlie Dickey was leaning towards that power run game. And maybe there are several guys on this particular roster that don't fit into the Meacham system. Maybe he wants to go faster. He wants to be a little bit more pace-oriented. And in order for that to happen, you have to be really good at pass protection. If you go back to the Doug Meacham days previously at Oklahoma State, and even to some degree, those TCU offenses that were absolutely humming, they had mobile quarterbacks, of course. That's obviously beneficial. But when it came to the offensive line play, it was a lot of pass pro. It was a lot of RPO style stuff. It wasn't your traditional hammer it home with the I formation tailbacks behind you like we've gravitated towards the last couple of years. That was Charlie Dickey's bread and butter. That's what we recruited. So we've got some big dudes, right? We've got some 6'6", 360-pound individuals, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're suited for the offense that Doug Meacham wants to run. This almost feels like we're pursuing more pass pro individuals, more individuals that understand how to operate very, very quickly and also be able to slow it down, because you still have to be able to eat some clock. You still have to have an efficient run game, even if you are going to make the offense much more explosive. But once again, the fact that we had so many and we had heard that we weren't really targeting a whole lot in the recruiting process, if we're aggressively approaching these dudes via the spring portal, it's because we've got some holes to fill. And again, I think this is a positive reinforcement that there will not be anybody who doesn't deserve or earn the playing time this season, because these coaches are on a mission. They don't care where you come from, how long you've been here, what your star ratings were. They're just simply here to do a job. And it appears as though the offensive linemen that we have at the moment don't exactly fit the bill. Is there going to be a strong group that is? Yeah, but you have to have at least a decent amount of depth at the offensive line position because of it being so muddy down low, injuries typically happen. Why all linemen wear braces is because it's the easiest spot to get rolled up on. You're going to have guys that are trying to get pancakes, and when you've got other guys trying to use leverage right next to them, you're going to open yourself to injuries. So we not only have to have guys that have the versatility to play multiple spots, but we also need some dudes who we know we can rely on in pass protection. Because this last couple of years, we weren't so great at either. I know numerically speaking, Ollie Gordon had an almost 1,800-yard season, but even then on paper, the PFF grades for that OLine group was like 52, 53-ish, so not very good. But we didn't really necessarily see it because of the ridiculous season that Ollie Gordon had. I appreciate that we hammered the approach to the offensive line with 3 different coaches that have a background of being Cowboys. And like with, Markel Samuel going from defensive end to offensive tackle, well, it's the same thing that Cooper Bassett did. So I think it would make sense that he's going to be able to train him up on what he was able to utilize at Oklahoma State to kind of make that transitionary period, or vice versa. He's going to be able to teach some things differently. Then you have Grant Garner, who can teach some things from a different perspective down low. And then you have Andrew Mitchell, who's been a coordinator already at the big-time levels of college football, maybe not Power 4, but high up in the G5. So he understands how to diagram everything throughout the course of the week to get the scout team the best look, so on and so forth. That differentiation between this year and last year, I think, is going to be massive. I think it's another indication why we're able to lure in some of these individuals. The Indiana offensive lineman. Again, this is a dude that played some, went from tackle, moved to guard. They had some guys that graduated. They brought in a few transfers, but it still looked like he was going to be able to have a starting position, and he decided to pull this out. So Austin Barrett's already talked to Oklahoma State, already talked to Boise State. He's going to have several suitors because he was sought after coming out of high school. And he's got the size, again, at 6'6", 320 some odd pounds. I feel like the sky's the limit for what this coaching staff can do because of precisely this. It does mean that we're going to lose some guys that we have some affection towards, some affinity for, but we need to take some solace in the fact that this staff is not doing anything other than trying to get the most out of the roster. And some guys that did transfer, maybe they realize they're not going to fit. There's some guys that have been trying to get on the field for years that realize they could possibly go start at a Tulsa or North Texas somewhat quickly. There is going to be some of that. But I think it's going to be a little bit more than I thought initially from the offensive line spot. Because clearly there is something in that room that we're trying to get more of. And it doesn't appear as though we're trying to get a whole bunch of big old meat and tater guys. We're going after agile dudes who seem to be able to have the versatility that have already played multiple line positions in college. So with that in mind, I feel like the offense is going to get more fun. And maybe we just don't have all of the pieces to make it work yet. Speaking of getting all of the pieces put together, Upwork is where all of us need to go when we're trying to scale things the right way, because scaling your business requires the right expertise at the right time. With Upwork, you can find specialized freelancers in marketing, development, signs, and more, experts ready to help you and your business take it to the next level. Upwork gives businesses flexibility by connecting them with the top freelance talent across multiple industries, including IT, AI, web development, and marketing. Whether you need extra hands for a project or a long-term partner, Upwork makes hiring simple and affordable. Finding the right talent means that you have to have the right marketing campaign. Upwork can help you connect with a freelance expert who delivers incredible results. Post a job. It's super free and it's simple, and do it within a day to get multiple qualified candidates to choose from. Instead of hiring full-time, Upwork helps find affordable, top-tier freelancers to help scale your business more efficiently. Visit Upwork.com right now and post your job for free. That is Upwork, UpWork.com. Go there today to connect with the top talent and grow your business. Get with Upwork for the growth that you've been looking for your entire business. This top 25 class is a possibility. And most people know that Oklahoma State, we've had the number 29 class before. I think we had the number 27 class before. And this is back in the early 2000, mid 2000s. Obviously, we did have some capitalization after the Fiesta Bowl. So we should be able to put ourselves in this conversation all the time, right? I have made no qualms in my thought process that we should always be hovering in that 25 to 20 range, or 25 to 30 range, sorry. Regardless of what the national perception is of Oklahoma State, from a wins perspective, Oklahoma State does stack up there. From having the ability to get guys in the NFL, especially that were kind of, gems that were unearthed by the Cowboys, that's not necessarily a secret. But we've always kind of made a point to check all these boxes when it came to recruiting, which you have to do to protect yourself. But at the same time, you do have to take some risk. You have to take some chances occasionally. And now the Cowboys are seeming to grow in this recruiting. Currently sitting at number 29 in the country after grabbing 3-star wide receiver that will not be a 3-star for long in Jabarie Thornton. And this Waco, Texas product is definitely somebody that when you watch the film, it doesn't make sense. And so I actually reached out to a few recruiting analyst individuals and I said, watch 1 minute of this film, 30 seconds of this film, and tell me how this dude is not a 4-star. He just had a 1,367-yard season. He's put up over 1,800 yards collectively, had almost 200 yards in the return game as well, has a couple tackles, has the ability to absolutely blow the doors off of defenses. He's really quick twitch, so he can get in and out of routes very efficiently. He's really good at drawing double teams and even sometimes triple teams, yet from a spacing perspective, still find ways to beat them. Athletically, he's an absolute mismatch all up and down the field. And by and large, the common consensus was it's just because of his size at 5'10 and a half, 175 pounds. If he was 6 foot, 200, he'd be a bona fide consensus 4-star. If he was 6'4", 210, he'd easily be a 5-star, because when you put up that level of production, especially in the state of Texas, it has to have mega reach. And it has, because he seemingly has committed to Oklahoma State over your Oregons, Nebraskas, Ole Miss, Baylors, and Houstons of the world. So the offers indicate that people are very well aware that this is an individual that is extremely hard to stop, let alone slow down. He has that it factor. He carries himself with some swagger. He seems to understand when he gets an overload on the defensive side of the ball. If he runs a particular route, a particular way, he's going to get other people open as well. So, yeah, Jabarie Thornton is another individual that we've added to maintain this top 30 class, meaning that we're only a couple short gets away from being right there in the thick of the top 25. And if things continue to swing our way, we very easily could be talking about Oklahoma State being 24th. 24, 27, 29, I believe, are our highest classes of all time. So I think we've only topped the top 25 once. We've been in the top 30 quite often. I think our average for a long time was like 34.2 or 33.2 or something to that effect. So we've been hovering, but we're a top 15 winning team. We're a top 20 program over the last 2 decades. We should also be a top 25 recruiting program. Hovering between 24, 29-ish, to me, that makes the most amount of sense for Oklahoma State to continue to find themselves in positions to play for Big 12 titles, which puts you in a spot to play in the CFP. That is one of the biggest selling points. And like when we're talking about OU, because of the schedule, because of the shift, because of the, I don't want to say inconsistency, but reluctancy for people to buy into the fact that Brett Venables is going to be here for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 years. OU is going through a little bit of a downturn. I don't think it's going to last all that long, but we have to capitalize, and thus far we've been able to do that, getting some of the top talent in the state. Now you add this individual as well. We're only an Oscar Rios level commit away. We're only a Taj Overton level commit away, or a Tank Tayon King level commit away. We're very close to already being in that top 25 category. So it's an exciting time. And again, the question is going to be, how is the restoration of order going to go? What's it going to look like? What's the win totals going to be? Is Oklahoma State going to put itself back into that national conversation? Because if so, we should see this number even continue to get better. Numerically speaking, right, everyone's got a long ways to go, but it looks like we're trying to still focus a decent amount on the high school landscape. And we all know that there's teams across the country that are not doing that. Now, do you have to open your transfer market doors a little bit wider? Absolutely. Everybody's going to have to. But there are going to be some programs that only bring in 6, 7, 8, 9 high school guys. I hope Oklahoma State is not like that, because the developmental side of the program, when you have a guy like Rob Glass and surely some other guys getting the tutelage underneath him to continue to keep that strength and conditioning program going. But when you have all of these things at your disposal, you have to strike while the iron's hot. You have to capitalize. We just mentioned previously, we had some early success, which gave us some good classes. We had some Fiesta Bowl 12-win season success with a Blitnikoff Award winner, back-to-back Blitnikoff Award winner. That led us to, a top 30 class. And then we've had another one mixed in there as well. But the Mason Rudolphs and the James Washingtons and the Marcel Aitmans and the Tyron Johnsons, all of these dudes have wanted to play for this Oklahoma State offense. And I feel like the offensive numbers are going to get even better because of the excitement level that is building on that side of the ball. Defensively, I have no doubt that Todd Grantham is going to be an upgrade over what we've been seeing, right? It's going to be an upgrade by and large, going back to like a Jim Knowles level get. And we did get Derek Mason from Auburn, which proved to the national public landscape that Oklahoma State is willing to go get some big-time guys, and we're willing to pay them legitimate money to do so. But you also want to see a little bit of loyalty. So if Todd Grantham is able to institute this NFL style of system in Stillwater and turn it into a Jim Knowles level defense, would anybody fault him if he were to take one of these Ohio State, Michigan level jobs in the next few years? No, I don't think anybody would. But it's all about getting there. And once we get there, I think there needs to be an emphasis on whomever leaves in the next couple years from this new staff. We need to try to recreate this. I mean, we all love getting the legacy guys, getting the former Cowboys that have that connection to the state of Oklahoma or love orange and black, and we appreciate it. But at the same time, when you get guys that are insanely hungry, it doesn't necessarily matter, because you're always going to be able to find, to some degree, the J.W. Walshes, the Trayson Wallaces, the Mike Gundys, the Kenyatta Wrights of the world. You're going to be able to find those guys because there is a large number of guys who do bleed orange still. But you also have to take some dudes that are willing to take some risks, that are willing to work the extra hours and install the extra coverages and make the play calling system either more advanced or more simplistic, whatever needs to happen from a week-to-week basis. Those are the hungry dudes that want head coaching jobs, that want to take over places, that want promotions. And I don't think we had that over the last few years. Individually, yeah, there are certainly some guys that wanted some levels of promotions and things of that nature, but we found the downside. When you keep a staff for 15, 17, 19, 12 years altogether, and then you bring back, 30 some odd dudes from the previous season, sometimes all of that equals a little bit of getting lost in the shuffle. And when you have too many guys lost in the shuffle, then you don't have enough guys on the same page. And then you run into what happened this previous season. The OLine coaches are certainly sending a message that we're going to play the best players. And if we feel like we can get better, we're going to go absolutely do it. No love lost here. This has turned into a business operation. And players obviously have to operate that way as well and do what's best for them and their futures. So undoubtedly, we're going to lose a few dudes that are important, which is why continuing this recruiting class is so crucial. If we get the offense back to the Whedon days, or it looks a little bit like the Trayvon Boykin days or the Mason Rudolph days, we're going to, once again, attract all of the top running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks in the country. And if the offensive line has an emergent season, then we're still going to be able to recruit that way. NIL, it's always going to be slightly problematic, but if you win and you build it, they will come. And we're starting to see that. This staff recruits different. They do things different. They see things different. They approach things different. And it's been a breath of fresh air. Running Oklahoma State in this methodology, obviously we have to see if it works because we don't know yet. But thus far, I feel like the reviews have been absolutely outstanding. The recruiting's been outstanding. The portal's been outstanding. Now it's just playing the game of what guys stay and what guys do leave and what guys do we bring in to have replacements. And you don't need to have replacements in your wallet unless it's with FanDuel. FanDuel is your need for all betting. The NBA playoffs are almost right here. FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when new FanDuel customers place their first $5 bet, they'll get $250 back in bonus bets if your bet is a winner. FanDuel makes it easy. So easy and simplistic, whether it's picking your favorite team or diving into player props, three-pointer steals, assists, blocks, whatever. FanDuel has so many ways for you to bet on your favorite player props. Plus, after the game tips off, you can combine live prop bets into same-game parlays for the biggest chances to win. Do not miss out on your playoff having opportunity for fun and financial compensation possibilities. Head on over to FanDuel.com and claim your $250 back in bonus bets today. Place the $5 bet. If it's a winner, you get that 250 bones back in bonus bets. Make sure that you go to FanDuel.com today to get squared away with all of your betting needs. All righty, so Mike Gundy, thankfully, brought back the spring game, and he's also been kind of open about some things. Obviously, we got to learn more about the Talon Shetron situation from some of the post-game press conferences. We've got to learn about some of the quarterback rotations, not necessarily needing a lot of adjustment at this point in time in the season. So we've been able to pick some things. And then he comes out and he talks about the Bedlam spring game potentially being a thing someday, followed by who cares what the NCAA thinks. They can't really do anything anyways, which he was dead on. Good job, Mike Gundy, at a babe. And now, most recently, he talks about why we're having the spring game essentially full speed ahead. And it's because we have to get to that roster spot. Again, we've been handling everything like rookie minicamp OTAs, getting down to roster cuts to the 53-man NFL style of roster system. And this is another layer of that. In order to make a determination on is this guy going to fit or not, you're going to have to see him full speed. And unfortunately, you try to avoid injuries and things of that nature in the spring, and we all hope that everybody does avoid those injuries. But at the same time, you can't really take it lackadaisical or you're not going to get a full picture. So I think it's absolutely phenomenal that Mike Gundy has brought back the spring game. It's phenomenal. He's talked about turning Bedlam into that as well. And now he's given us a full, legitimate 11 on 11, best on best spring game. And then it'll be ones on twos and things of that nature kind of mixed in as well. But we need that. And Mike Gundy's 100% right. Not just from the fan base, not just to build the excitement, anticipation for this upcoming season, but also make a determination, because some of these cuts are not going to be easy, right? There's going to be some that make sense. If you've got a guy that's been here 5-6 years and hasn't got to play, it's probably better to say, hey, dude, we'll help you get to Tulsa. We'll help you get to North Texas, UCO, whatever the case is. But there's going to be some dudes that just aren't picking up something quite yet. And you're going to get rid of them, and they're going to go somewhere, and they're going to figure it out, and they're going to be absolutely stars. That's an inevitability. It happens all the time. So that's going to be the difficulty, is getting rid of the guys that are right on that fringe where you don't really want to get rid of him, because if he goes to another Big 12 school, he very well could be a problem for you. But at the same time, you do have to handle this as a business move. So you are going to have to make some cuts that are uncomfortable. Part of that is by having a full speed spring game. Make it look as realistic as possible, as game-like as you physically possibly can, because that'll help you decide what players are willing to do X, Y, and Z, what players are capable, what players are going to take too much work, or what players, are not disciplined in this area, or they're lacking in this particular area, and we just can't have that this season, right? There's going to be some dudes that we thought were going to be massive contributors that do end up in the portal just because it's a numbers game. And there's going to be some uncomfortable cuts. I appreciate the fact that this is happening, as we all should and do, I imagine, because last year we saw what the result was when we leaned too heavily on They're the old school traditional guys that have been here forever, including the senior players and the upperclassmen that have been here for 4, 5, 6, 7 years. We saw what that was like. So is it going to hurt and sting to lose some dudes that we've gotten close to that we feel like could be absolutely massive, especially if they go elsewhere and end up being a pain in our wazoos? Yeah, for sure. But it's better than playing favorites and saying, you know what, we're going to keep him even though we know he's not going to play. It just doesn't work anymore. It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new age. And this is the wonderful sides of Mike Gundy that most of us, I feel like, can't appreciate. And he's right. You have to make a determination. And in order to do that, you're going to have to go full out to find out what works, what doesn't. Because some dudes look phenomenal in drills and they look great in 7-on-7, but 11-on-11, the speed of the game, the blitzes, the stunts, that can get very complex and it makes things difficult. So even just quarterbacks, reading coverages and things of that nature. If you do drills and you have a practice and you do autographs, you're not going to know. We're not going to know. They're not going to know. But if you get a full 11-on-11 and you give everybody ample opportunities and you have multiple turnovers, well, then there's probably your answer. If you can't figure out the playbook and you have to call timeout all the time, then you probably have your answer. It is what it is. College football is not for everybody. You know what I mean? There's a lot that goes on. There's a lot of adjustments, and sometimes it's just too much. You don't understand it. You don't get it. You don't fit it. You're homesick. Scholastically, you're having some troubles. There's a lot of factors that go into this other than just being good at football. So that'll be part of the storyline is who are the unfortunate guys that end up wrapped up in this roster limitation cut. But again, the idea behind it is handle this thing like the NFL, coach this thing up like the SEC, and allow the best players to play regardless of their scenario. Here, there, stayed, transfer, came, walk on, whatever. The best will play. And if you don't fit into the scheme, no love lost. We still love you, but we've got to find somebody that fits better, and we're likely going to help you elsewhere. Speaking of being elsewhere, I got somewheres to be. So until next time, you know I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Hit the dislike button if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast and people out there, you're everything that makes this work. I appreciate you. Do what you do. Hit the stars. Leave a review. All righty, y'all. We're going to get on out of here. You know the drill. Go hammer the stars. Go have some fun. Go type some stuff up. Get busy in the comments. Have a good time with it. All righty, y'all. Later, taters.